Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wizard. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. All right, hello, Perry Blackshear. How did you come up with the title for your movie, When I Consume You?
It was sometimes titles come, appear at the very beginning of the process and the whole movie revolves around it. And this time it was a little bit more like choosing a band name where we had the movie and we sort of discovered it as we were making it. It was originally called Ogre. But that's because it had been in my head. Some version of it had been in my head for almost a decade. And so even though the script changed a lot, the title stayed. But then we were showing it to people and they're like, what? There isn't an ogre in it. And so we were like, that is a good rational point. And so we found something we accidentally, it sounded a little bit like They Look Like People, actually, in its rhythm. Someone pointed that out. So I don't know. It's sort of, we found it during the process, I would say.
Okay. So I love the floating yellow eyes in the movie. How did you create that effect?
This was just, we did some experimentation. We did some practical effects. And in the end, we worked with a friend of one of the producers who worked with us on the Rusalka, or the Siren, our second film, who's a visual effects artist. And it was just wonderful. I think that there was, we knew that would be a big element of the movie, and we wanted to not go overboard, but do something that feels grounded enough that it could happen, but strange enough that it definitely feels like something weird's going on here.
All right, tell me about finding your cast and the working relationship during the shoot.
Yeah, so this is actually a cool story. So the Evan Dumichel and McLeod Andrews and I, this is our third movie together. The first one was called They Look Like People, and that was about 5 years ago. I knew them from college, and I actually got them plane tickets to New York without having written a script. We had just decided we were going to make a movie together, and then it happened, and that was They Look Like People. And we also made our second film together, The Siren, and this is our third. So the cast sort of emerged from these relationships that we've been developing, which is unbelievable. People sometimes ask, oh, why do you work with the same people? And I'm like, why don't people work with the same people? It's awesome. It's like, they're my really good friends. We get to make stuff we care about with people we really like. And Libby Ewing was a new addition. This was a friend of a friend, and she became just an integral part of the entire production. When you have a crew and a sort of a crew is, everything is tiny as ours, everything becomes very personal and intimate. So it's in some ways it's the films we do together is a little bit like a band, and it's exciting to work with them, and it's also exciting to meet folks in California that have a similar ethos, making stuff you care about with people you actually get along with, and to make bigger movies and TV shows and things like that. So it's while we are expanding our circle, it feels so wonderful to work with these actors and creative partners that we've been working with before.
You had a nice family business.
Yes, a family. Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so did you do some research on the occult for the movie? And what is your personal relationship like with that stuff?
With that stuff, the occult. Wow, I think what interests me the most about the occult aspects, I think part of the sort of creation of this movie stemmed from something I read that talked about a few years ago how exorcisms are on the rise. They're sort of skyrocketing, requests for exorcisms, and I think the more I learned about, the more I sort of did research, it seems like there's a big kind of psychological crisis going on. And I've noticed this with myself and a lot of the people that I care about. I think there's more witches in America than Presbyterians now. I think that there's a lot of seeking for something else, something more, all these people, a lot of them who requested exorcisms weren't even religious, but they just were like, I feel not right. I don't know why. Can someone who knows, is connected to something higher, please help me? And even the kind of, a lot of my friends are in California, and they're, very into crystals and things like this. And there's a lot of forms of it, but I think there's, I've noticed it in my own, like I said, my own life and people I care about. There's a lot of seeking for something else, something more, something beyond, maybe into the unexplainable, or that sort of zone between psychological and spiritual. And I think the occult exists in that zone. And I think that's what excited me the most about it. I certainly, let's see, I don't want to go on too many tangents, but I had a sort of scary situation medically about a decade ago. And because of that, I think I got very into, world religions and a lot of this, did a lot of research, and some of that stuff got me through some tough times. So I think it's interesting to me intellectually, but some of the aspects of it, the spirituality that underlies a lot of it means a lot to me, and it's helped me through some tough stuff. So that's part of it as well.
Okay, so what would you pair this movie with for a double bill?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Let's see. I think for the cinematography, I watched a lot of movies from the 70s. I felt like it had this sort of freedom and noirness to it that I really liked. But I'm actually going to go with Mike Flanagan's Absentia, which was before Oculus, before Haunting of Hill House, one of his earlier films. It's about two sisters, and one of them's husband is missing and has been missing for 7 years, but he starts to come back as a ghost. And that movie changed the way I thought about horror genre in general, but horror. And I think this was an interview, more than a decade ago with him, and he talked about how, this sort of idea of like horror movies being just movies about people you love that go through very terrifying things. And I didn't know that a movie could be that meaningful and heartfelt and so scary. And so I think that was I love his work. He's been a little bit of a mentor to me, and I think I would feel that would be a decent double bill. I love that film. People should check it out.
I'll check it out for sure. It sounds really good. So this isn't your first project at Fantasia, and I would love to know what the festival means to you as a filmmaker.
Yeah, so the first feature, They Look Like People, it premiered at Slam Dance, but it was a very small beginning. It was at the same time as Sundance, and our crew was a little bit, it hadn't hit a genre festival yet. It had gone to Nashville, it went to Boston, it had won some awards, but Fantasia was the first time the movie hit a genre audience, and that was a totally different experience for me. And I had never, it was the best festival experience we've still ever had going to Fantasia. Not just Mitch and his staff and the way everybody treats everybody, the kind of soul of the festivals, because festivals have different vibes, feeling kind of souls to them. But the audience was just unbelievable. I think, sometimes genre fans get thought of as like, oh, they just love exploding heads and axes or whatever. But I think that the fans of Fantasia are so passionate and so committed, and there's such a sense of community. So coming back here, They Look Like People won the Most Innovative Film Award, and it was really sort of our launch pad after that. And so it was a big sort of moment for us, and we're so excited to be back with this third film.
Great, that's awesome. How long did it take you to write the script? And may you tell me how you approach writing it from concepts to finished product?
So I think there was a draft of the script that was different that I had written about 7 years ago. And then I sort of pulled it all apart and put it back together again. I would say I have a pretty, I sort of have a rigorous way of writing scripts that then also, is malleable based off talking to the actors and, let's see, how do I say this? One of my classmates and fellow filmmakers was Chloe Chow, who did The Rider and Nomadland. And I love neorealism. I love the mode of filmmaking that is sort of found rather than constructed. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the filmmaking process was what do I have? What are the places that I know and the people that I care about, and what can we do together? And so the script is sort of this dance between the story, this sort of big story that you intend to tell, and what you have on you, basically, and what's going on in your life and the life of the people that you want to put in the film. So it's always this combination of, finding and sort of integrating life into the script, and then, having a big story that you want to tell that sort of brings all those things together.
Okay. So are you like an outline guy? Like, how do you go from like notes?
Yes. Good. Okay. So technical questions. Yes. I think it's like, it's definitely like outline, treatment, mm-hmm. script read, and then we talk about it a bunch, rehearse a lot. It changes in the rehearsal process too. Mm-hmm. It's very sort of actor centric in a lot of ways. So I think that it's a lot about the actors and the relationships and sort of going from there. And it changes, I think, when not just, refining the dialogue, but the, Evan and Libby, especially, that relationship, I think, from stuff in their own life meant so much to them. Different aspects of the script, the actors bring new things too. So a very simple example is in the first script, Margaret Ying Drake was a judo champion mm-hmm. that used to do judo with Ronda Rousey when she was much younger. And so we wrote that for her character, and the scene where she met Evan's character, she actually grabs him and flips him onto his back in the middle of a park. And they had never met each other, the actors. So we filmed that as their two character introduction. And so it's like, it's creating a skeleton and an outline, and then letting the locations we shoot at and the actors we bring to the table and their relationships and what they bring sort of inform the script in an organic way.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Why do you gravitate towards the horror genre as a creative person?
Great question. I think I like all genre. Mm-hmm. I even like musicals a lot. I did a musical in school, but I think what I like the most about sort of hard genre and horror is there's two things. One, I feel going to a scary movie gives you there's a sort of sense of undergoing a kind of initiation ceremony where you get plunged into darkness and then pulled out at the end back into the light, and there's a real sense of catharsis in horror films. Mm-hmm. It's very kind of powerful. There's a real sense that you can sort of grab the audience. Mm-hmm. And I really like that aspect of it. And I also think that genre, and I didn't know this, and I think this is sort of a goofy reference at this point, but Buffy the Vampire Slayer was very influential to me early on, because they took stories like, oh, I have a jealous boyfriend. Oh, I have the other things, people, things that are happening in people's lives, and transform them into genre, which just means dialing whatever people are going through in their lives up to sort of 15. Mm-hmm. And so it's sort of a way of externalizing internal life. So, mm-hmm. The stuff people go through in their lives, you get to make like a scary movie about that. And that aspect of it I love. I feel like it's very powerful, and you get to use fantasy to talk about reality.
Nice. What have been seminal horror movies in your life?
Honestly, Absentia.
Yeah.
Let the Right One In.
Nice.
The original. Mm-hmm. That one. I mean, I was so obsessed with that movie. I couldn't think about anything for months after watching it. It was the sweet coming of age story that also had such teeth, and they both, like, the horror and the coming of age really like enhanced each other. I thought it was unbelievable. And then I would say, and this is recent, Haunting of Hill House, as a TV show, but it really there's so much empathy and sort of humanity in that show, and it's also so scary. I emailed Mike after I forget the 8th episode. There's a jump scare in that made me throw my coffee. And I emailed Mike and was like, you got me, man.
Was it like a spill or you chucked it?
I sort of did that. I did like a sort of the equivalent of a spit take, but with my coffee. Yeah, it was awesome.
That's great. Perry, thanks for your time. Do you have anything else you would like to say about When I Consume You before I let you go?
No, thanks for having me on the show. It's playing August 18th. We're so happy to be back at Fantasia, and just really happy to be here.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot, man.